We are slaying monsters.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
So I'm doing a magic show in a retirement home. I did, like, that was kind of my circuit, was I did magic shows in retirement homes, right? Mm-hmm. And I had this, it's a classic kind of thing. And I was cutting a volunteer in half, and it's too much to get into the effects and all of that. But part of it was that I made them hold a magic wand for it. And it was one of those magic wands where, like, if you pass it to the spectator, it doesn't stand up straight anymore.
Yeah,
and it droops over, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. And I could not believe the dirty minds that these, like, 80-year-old women had. It was really, I was young, you know, and doing this with them, I was just kind of like, oh my God. Because, of course, I'd only really experienced with, like, my grandparents and my great aunt and uncle, who were all very sweet and innocent people. And they were just like innuendo, like.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
so they were having a great time.
They were so dirty, man. They ate it up. Oh, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna be like when I'm an old person. If I'm lucky enough to become an old person, but that sounds.
I think it's a good goal.
Yeah,
it's a good goal to
yeah.
be like, absolutely. My age should not dictate my humor level. You know,
Right.
my humor should not age and refine as I get older. If anything, it should go the other way.
It should go the other way.
You should be able to be like, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna laugh at dick jokes all the time.
Well, yeah, and like I think I said to you the other night, like, I'm gonna if I can hit 90, I'll be just like, all bets are off. I'm just gonna drink all day long.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you made it.
Why?
You
Yeah,
made it.
I made it. I made it across the finish line.
Yeah, you deserve it.
Yes.
Why are we talking about magic though?
Magic. We're talking about magic because I think there's going to be a little bit of magic in the 4th episode of the Fox Sisters, which we are on here today.
Woohoo!
This is obviously Matt across the table.
Yo.
I'm EJ, obviously.
Yeah. Cool.
And here we go.
All right. So when we last left the Fox Sisters, Leah and Kate were in New York City, performing seances out of Leah's brownstone there. Maggie had been following her fiancé's request, and she was spending her time taking classes outside of Philadelphia and occasionally visiting her sisters, right? Now, over the course of the next 2 years, that remains their way of life. When Elisha Kane returns to Philadelphia, remember, this is the man that Maggie is in love with. He's proposed to her, but it's all been in secret, right? It's 1855, and he comes back despondent, empty-handed. He and his men failed to find the Franklin expedition, and they were forced to abandon their ship on the ice and walk 1,300 miles across Greenland to get rescued.
Oh, wow. So Elisha ended up in the very similar situation, except he was
Exactly.
lucky because he lived.
Except he lived.
Okay.
He might not have even lived.
See, I did not expect him to live. I thought this next episode was big. Well,
Yeah.
he died too.
No, he makes it back. So yeah, Elisha, he gets rescued. He returns to Maggie, but he's very disappointed in what, obviously, because he didn't find the expedition. And he's been in communication with Lady Jane Franklin to be like, hey, I'm gonna try to find what happened to your husband. Couldn't do it, right? So upon his arrival back to Philly, newspapers in the area published articles talking about his journey and his return and all of that, and also about his upcoming wedding to Maggie Fox.
Ooh, and this was supposed to be a secret?
This is supposed to be a secret, yeah.
Oh, no.
So now it's assumed that these newspaper articles were published or were influenced by Leah, who was trying to force Kane's hand and pressure him to marry Maggie. You might remember this is a tactic that Leah learned, we talked about in the last episode, from Reinders, Captain Reinders, who had put pressure on the newspapers to be like, oh yeah, you want to talk about how great the Fox sisters are, right? Same deal. Now Maggie herself awaited Cain's return with her own dreams of getting married, but those fantasies quickly dashed. They spent the winter together, but still in secret, with Cain keeping out of the public eye the whole time. This goes on for an entire year while Cain is off. He's toiling away on a book about his journey to the Arctic. Okay? Meanwhile, his relationship with Maggie gets more and more improper.
Ooh.
Scandal.
Are they like holding hands?
Oh no, they've long been beyond holding hands. He calls on her frequently. He spends nights in her rooms. And he gave her a locket that he purchased and a ring that he brought back from the Arctic. But whenever she presses him on marriage, he pulls back and he says, like, oh, isn't this enough for you? And he promises her that I'm going to do everything in my power to end my other relationship. Just give me some time. Just give me a little time, right? So now this has gone on for this year. Then he was gone for 2 years, and then there was that whole courting period before that when he ultimately proposed to her at her brother-in-law's funeral, right?
Man, get rid of this guy. Get rid of this guy.
And I think that he was genuinely attracted to her. The thing is, I think Elisha Cain primarily depended on his parents for support. He was a surgeon, but he didn't practice. Instead, he wrote and he lectured, and he probably earned a little bit of money, but not nearly the amount that the Fox sisters were bringing in. Remember, his family were staunch Presbyterians who would have not only hated his little spiritualist, but would have completely disowned Cain for his ungentlemanly behavior with her.
Huh. So he's just having a really tough time deciding between family and love.
Yeah, I think he truly loved her. He just was stuck in such a hard situation. He didn't know how to figure a way out of it. So finally, Maggie's aging mother, Margaret, puts her foot down and she forbid Cain from seeing her daughter anymore unless he married her. Remember, Margaret had been spending some time with them now and then. She was probably getting a little bit of money from Leah. The Fox sisters, that's Maggie and Kate, move to a larger house on 22nd Street, and Leah moves in with them as well. Maggie, in this house, gets her own floor, a one-bedroom apartment, and a space to entertain. And almost immediately, against her mother's wishes, she starts seeing Cain again, despite her best efforts to reject him. You know, she's just head over heels for the guy, right?
She just can't say no.
She can't say no.
What happened to this other poor woman that he was supposed to be married to?
As far as I know, she's just waiting.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And we're now on like 4 years of Cain waffling on her.
Get rid of this guy.
No. No, she's too charmed by the semen.
But also Nice. Also though, like, screw that old traditional thing, you know? Just be together. You don't need to get married and do all that stuff.
Yeah, I think the problem was that society was actually moving more traditional at this point. Remember that Maggie had seen her older sister Leah as an unwed mother and all of the trials that came with that, right? And Maggie really wants a normal life. Like, she did the whole tour thing as a spiritualist, all of that. She made a whole bunch of money, but she didn't like it. Remember how upset they were needing to entertain people in DC. They've started drinking on the road to like get through the day. They're really upset with that life, right?
Right.
Maggie, she wants normalcy. She wants structure in her life right now. That's why for the past 3 years at this point, she's divorced herself from spiritualism and said, all right, I'll go to Philly. I'll go study. I'll go try to make an educated woman of myself instead. By August of 1856, Kane decided to return to England and deliver a copy of his newly finished book in person to Lady Jane Franklin. That's the widow, of course, of the lost captain, right? Before leaving, he marries Maggie. Finally.
Whoa.
Finally. They get married in a secret ceremony in New York.
Why? Okay, but why did it have to be secret, though?
Well, that's what it had to be, because I don't think it was official. I don't think it was actually official.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, because this ceremony, it's attended only by Kate and Mother Margaret. The wedding was conducted in Maggie's parlor, and no officiant was present. Yeah.
What?
This was just one of those civil ceremonies. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, I'm not a traditionalist. I don't care. It's just, this guy just seems so shady. Like, what are you doing
Oh,
here?
yeah, it was totally underhanded.
Maybe I'm being unreasonable.
No, 4 years is a long time to have somebody be like, I want to marry you, but you gotta wait till I get out of my other relationship.
Yeah, but then finally, yes, I'll marry you, but like I'll marry you in secret with no officiant?
Yeah.
Get rid of this guy.
So shortly after the marriage, he set sail for England. While meeting with Lady Jane Franklin, they discussed a third voyage to go search for the lost ships. But that voyage never comes to fruition. Falling ill, Kane sailed for Havana in hopes of the warm climate restoring his health. Oh. But the voyage was in vain, and he died there in February of 1857.
Aw, that's sad. Wait, did Maggie not go with him?
No.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. No, she was in New York.
Did he have tuberculosis, maybe?
Probably. A lot of the illnesses, because Calvin Brown's illness is this way too, where they're like, oh, he fell ill and he had a lung issue or something like that, but we don't really know. But tuberculosis was a serious problem at the time. So
Yeah, for real.
likely.
Oh, well, I mean, this is sad, but at least he died in Cuba.
I guess.
I mean,
yeah.
Man, I can't think of a better place to die. You just sit there, you're looking at the palm trees.
Sure. The ocean.
Ocean. Yeah. Man. Better than freaking New York in the 1850s.
He leaves Maggie brokenhearted. And she disappears even more from the family. She takes her own apartment where she set up a shrine to Elisha Kane.
Oh.
She refused to continue doing their mediumships. Instead, she chose drinking as her new occupation. Within a year, she'd fallen into a relationship with Kane's brother, whose name is Robert, and he's a lawyer. I think Maggie's actions after Elisha Kane's death reveal her internal conflict with her upbringing and her chosen profession and her views of the future. She received a Catholic baptism, fulfilling Kane's wishes. Now, this was after he died. She got baptized by the Catholic Church. And I think in her mind, her future, this notion of becoming a wife and possibly a mother and like leaving her spiritualist career behind was this goal that she had held in her. It was almost in her reach. And now it was shattered. And Maggie was just adrift and broken at this time.
That's so sad.
Yeah. So Kane's family, now after his death, Kane's family learns of their relationship, Maggie's relationship with him. And they attack her for it.
What?
They demand that she return his love letters, which they claim they had a right to own. And they demanded that she return the $5,000 inheritance that he's left her.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah.
She better not freaking do that.
I think, to me, the inheritance is debatable because they probably weren't technically legally married, right? Mm-hmm. But asking for the love letters back is just plain mean.
That's just mean-spirited.
Yeah.
And where's Robert in all this? He can't feel that way.
Well, she pleads with him, but he's kind of just the family's conduit to her. I don't think he was ever like really invested in the relationship. Yeah, the whole thing just strikes me as something that the family did to cut this assumed harlot out of their lives and make it very clear, you are not one of us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice people.
Yeah, they're these affluent people again, right? And she was not. She was this poor girl who grew up to be a devil maker in their view, right?
They probably didn't like how successful she became.
I'm sure there was a great deal of it was that.
Yeah.
But it leaves Maggie completely stuck. She has no inheritance. She has no desire to seek another husband. She has to either choose the measly pay of women's work or defy her dead husband and return to spiritualism.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Didn't she make a lot of money, though?
She did.
Doesn't she have a lot of money?
Not anymore.
Why?
Because years have gone by and she hasn't been doing it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
After he proposed to her, she stopped because he didn't want her to participate in it anymore, remember?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, so she just hasn't been doing any work. She's been living off the money that she's accrued, and I'm sure some money that he gave her, and he gave her a $5,000 inheritance and all of that. But slowly, Maggie's starting to run out of money here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we already know that she disliked the medium life, right? And this was probably intensified by the dashed promises of a better future that she had in her head. So Maggie spiraled into drunken depression in her little New York City apartment and cuts herself off from the entire world. Meanwhile, Leah marries again, this time to a man named Daniel Underhill. Underhill is a doctor with ties to both New York and Philadelphia, and the Fox Underhills are like a 1850s version of a power couple.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Right.
All right.
So together they buy this like impressive house at 38th Street and 8th Avenue, which is a blue-collar garment district at that point. Leah is continuing to hold her seances, and she's leading the life of an upscale socialite in her spare time.
Okay, so she's making the money. She's raking it in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's bringing it in. She has no
Okay.
problem. She has no qualms because she didn't have a Catholic husband.
Okay. Those Catholic husbands, man.
Yeah. Yeah, right? And you gotta think her journey from being evicted from her tiny little apartment in Rochester during her piano teaching days to this. They have this big house in the middle of it's a house. It's not an apartment. It's a house, right? In New York City. She's bringing people in. She's entertaining. She's doing her seances. She's just living the life that she's dreamed of her entire life.
Good for her.
She did not really come to Maggie's aid.
Oh.
By April of 1861, the Civil War begins. The Fox sisters likely followed these events closely, given their ties to the abolitionist movement. By 1865, when the war ended, a different America emerged on the other side. The classic, like, brother fighting brother scenario left a whole bunch of people who had lost family members during the war, and these people are very keen to get some kind of spiritual closure. So Kate continues to hold seances, but Leah slowly backs away from the game. She kind of semi-retires, call it, after the Civil War. At this point, she's 52.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. She's
Right.
under the care of her husband, and she's just living this great life, right? Maggie, on the other hand, is embroiled in her own personal war with the Kane family.
Oh, geez. Are they still attacking her?
Yeah, all throughout this period.
Oh my
This is
God.
like a decade long. As the Civil War comes to a close, the Fox family themselves are hit with tragedy. Their father, John Fox, died in January of 1865. This loss echoed deeply with the sisters and was compounded by the death of their mother, Margaret, from typhoid fever that August.
Oh, man.
Yeah, same year. Daniel Underhill consoles Leah, but Maggie and Kate have no one to turn to but each other. Kate was especially distraught by her mother's passing. Remember, Kate's the youngest. She's been raised mostly by Leah, But Margaret had always been a central figure in her life, this constant supporter of her endeavors and a barometer for her own decisions. With no one left to guide her, Kate follows in her older sister's footsteps, and she too turns to wine to ease her pain. Now you have these two sisters who are essentially drinking buddies in New York City.
That sounds kind of fun.
I mean, if you rejected all the situation that made them drinking buddies,
yes,
yeah.
And so Leah
Yes.
was not a very good sister to either of them, really.
You're starting to see that happen now, right?
Okay.
Where Leah has now attained the thing that she wanted. And so she backs away from being a spiritualist. She's removing contact with the sisters, except for Kate sometimes, but Maggie especially. Once Maggie rejected spiritualism and chose Elisha Kane over the family, Leah was done with her.
Man, that's cold.
Yeah.
There are people like that. They just take you, they use you, and then they just walk away when you fulfilled your duty. It's just like, man, it's pretty cold.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Leah was driven by success. In 1866, Maggie published The Love Life of Dr. Kane under the name Margaret Fox Kane. This book consisted of Elisha Kane's love letters to her, the same ones the family has been trying to get.
Oh, here you go. Did she send them a signed copy in the mail?
She should have. Oh, it'd be amazing.
To my biggest fans.
Yeah, right.
Who have been dying for this manuscript since the conception.
Oh, it'd be such a great introduction from the author. Like, I know there's been so much desire to read these.
I know, and then the acknowledgments. This couldn't have been possible without the family, the Kane family.
Yeah.
You created Elisha.
Yeah. Through publicly publishing these letters, she effectively shoved her relationship in the family's face.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And into the public's eye as well. Finally, over a decade after their secret affair began, Maggie has brought it into the spotlight. But this bitter revenge brought her little joy, and she just continues down the path of drinking.
I can't blame her, though. That's pretty great.
But it's still kind of a badass thing to do, right?
Quite.
Yeah. The next year, 1867, Kate is the only remaining sister conducting seances. She's branched out beyond raps, and she's now performing effects with dancing lights and spirit writing. All right, here comes our magic section.
Ew.
Ready?
Okay. Get ready, everybody.
Get ready. Yeah, and again, I did magic for a long time. I am a member of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. So spirit writing, or automatic writing, is a byproduct of the ideomotor effect, the same phenomenon that allowed a group of people to move a table without clear intention. In spirit writing, the medium holds a pencil to paper, and you don't actively try to move it. So you're not like actively trying to write anything. You're just moving the pencil on the paper. Meanwhile, there's a person conducting the seance, and they encourage these imagined spirits to move through the writer and dictate your message and all of that good stuff, right? So this can result in pictures or just illegible scribbles. And that's where the power of pareidolia comes in. Pareidolia, of course, is the human brain's tendency to recognize meaningful patterns in nebulous stimulus. The most obvious version of this is seeing something like shapes in the clouds, right?
Yeah.
That's not actually a big bunny up there. It's not a cloud that is impersonating a big bunny. You look like I've destroyed your world.
It's not?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's your brain translating these noisy patterns into recognizable ones. I've shattered your world.
Next, you're going to tell me there's no Easter Bunny. Do not even say it.
Oh, Easter Bunny's real.
Thank you.
You could also think of like ink blots or Rorschach tests. It's not a butterfly or two geese fighting or whatever. It's just ink splattered on a piece of paper, right? After the spirit writing session, you're probably left with a paper with a bunch of scribbles on it. Now, everybody in the room who are already primed to believe that a spirit was speaking through the writer, they all look at these scribbles and they begin to draw meaning out of them. These are all unconscious victims of their own pareidolia, right? Maybe you see words or faces or shapes. Doesn't matter.
It sounds fun.
I mean, yeah, it's cool. It's cool. And you'll still see mediums do this today.
I'm sure.
But just another case of putting something on after the fact, right? Spirit writing becomes a blank slate, ready to receive your ideas, your perceptions about what you expected from that session. And it's worth noting that this is very similar to tarot as well. What card you draw from the tarot deck doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what impressions you put on the images that are on that card. Cups, swords, whatever, take on whatever meaning you're placing on them, not the other way around.
Yeah. And that's fun.
Yeah.
Tarot's fun. It's all fun. Really, all of this sounds super fun.
Yeah, you can have fun with it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
In psychology, it's called a projective test. And they're used to get a deeper understanding of what's going on inside a person's motives and emotions. And of course, all of this became fodder for Kate's cold readings, and she could very easily guide her subjects and their revelations, right? Mm-hmm. Kate's also conducting seances where drawings and messages mysteriously appear on previously blank tablets. So you offer a tablet, like a slate, show it, there's nothing on it, and then you cover it, and when you take off the cover, there's writing on it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's really cool, right?
Yes. Is this like a reappearing ink sort of a thing?
No.
Or? Oh,
no,
okay.
that's
they don't have that yet.
That's what people think. They might have. Well, actually, I think they did, because didn't they do some of that with the spies, Washington spies? What was that?
Oh yeah,
the Culpeper
ring.
I think they did that.
Did they? I don't know.
There was really early disappearing ink that they used from fruit juice. You would write fruit juice on a piece of paper.
Oh.
And then if you burned it slightly, it would appear.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So it's not that.
No, this is not that.
Okay.
This is not that. It is described as a wonderfully clever piece of magic, described in Dunninger's Complete Encyclopedia of Magic. Indulge me with a side note. Joseph Dunninger, performing under the stage name The Amazing Dunninger, was one of the most famous mentalist magicians of all time. He, along with Harry Houdini, Howard Thurston, Harry Blackstone Sr., and Di Vernon, set the literal stage, taking tricks that were being done by the mediums in seances and the grifters in the streets, and they turned them into large-scale parlor entertainment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So these performers, they usher in this whole new brand of entertainment, the stage magician. And you're starting to see this come out of Kate and these other mediums who are performing and building beyond like, oh, I'm doing some spiritualist raps and stuff like that. She's doing actual magic, right?
Damn. So
Yeah.
without them, we wouldn't have these Houdini characters.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
In Dunninger's Complete Encyclopedia of Magic, he devotes 3 full pages to tricks of mediums. This includes an illusion where a blank chalk slate is covered, then revealed to have writing on it, exactly what Kate was doing. This is accomplished by the slate having a false front made of black silk. When the slate is covered, and then you remove that cover, you remove the silk with the covering, and reveal a message that had previously been written underneath.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I can't say for certain that this is the method Kate was using, but what I can say is that by the time Dunninger published his encyclopedia, there were obviously methods to perform that sort of effect. Similar allusions to this are detailed in Edwin Sachs' Sleight of Hand, a practical manual of legerdemain, originally published in 1885, and that's just 20 years after Kate's been performing her own feats. Sachs takes something of a more aggressive stance on the whole seance thing, including a chapter called Sham Mesmerism, Clairvoyance, etc.
Ooh, he just lays it right out there.
Yeah. In his explanation for the effects, he says, "In the introduction to these papers, I had occasion to refer to the impositions practiced by the ancient priests and others on the minds of an enlightened people by means of what were merely conjuring tricks, but which were made to appear before the ignorant in the guise of supernatural manifestations. Essentially, these people were fooling idiots.
Oh. That's just that's a very long-winded and purple prose way of saying y'all are stupid.
It's so funny. The whole book is written that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just the writing of the time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. He's a funny guy too, because he says the magician should never be played the fool. Like, the magician should always be up there on stage in control of what's going on, and shouldn't look like things are out of control or they don't know what they're doing.
That's an interesting perspective, but
Yeah.
I like it when they act like they don't know what they're doing.
Well, I think it's more effective sometimes.
Yeah.
It puts you off guard. There's something cool about the magician who's sawing the woman in half, and then for a second you're like, oh, the effect didn't work. Oops.
Yeah.
You know?
Or you can take, like, this is a bit of a tangent, but like Nathan Fielder, who has a magic background.
Yes.
Everything that he does in his show is basically magic.
Right.
If you...
Yeah,
if you think about it.
Nathan Fielder absolutely plays the fool. That
Yes.
whole character, the Nathan Fielder character, is the act, right?
He's so brilliant, but that's the whole thing, and that's
Yeah.
that's what I like about it so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that changes as time goes on, but for whatever reason, at the time, Sachs really wanted magicians to be this sort of poised, controlled presence on stage.
Yeah, it's a style of the time, I guess. Yeah.
Another skeptical magician was Samuel John Davy. Now, he was an ex-spiritualist, and he conducted his own fake seances and performed several versions of the spirit writing illusion. In his version, he passed the slate around for inspection before leaving it on the table for spirits to write on. Now, Davy did play the fool because it didn't work. The spirits wouldn't write on the slate, and he would say that they're too shy. So he would then take the slate and move it under the table, where he, out of sight, swapped it for a slate that had writing on it. And then he turns that upside down on the table and reveals the writing to have magically appeared.
Oh, good one. Nice.
Yeah. So just puts it under the table. Oh, now there's writing on it. Who knew?
God, I feel like that's as dumb as the baby peekaboo trick.
Well, so this is the thing, right? When I explain it that way, you're like, oh, that's super dumb.
Yeah.
But really, Davy's skill with sleight of hand and his ability to misdirect the audience's attention is what allows him to do that and make that switch. Even more fascinating, I think, is the unintentional blindness of the spectators. So we're going to link a video in the show notes, and I suggest you go and watch that now if you can, and come back after you're done, because it's a really cool effect, and we're about to spoil it all. Okay.
Did you go watch it?
All right, you've been warned. Okay, for those of you who couldn't watch the video, it's kids playing basketball. You're supposed to count how many times the ball is passed. And then a gorilla walks through the shot. And not like flashes through, like it strolls around and takes its time. This is the inattentive blindness, and it's a cornerstone of magic. Because people who are counting the passes don't see the gorilla, even though it's right in front of their fucking faces. It's amazing, right?
It's amazing. A lot of people, and some people do see the gorilla, but some people don't. And that's what's really cool. I'm actually reading the book about this right now.
Oh, cool.
Which is so crazy that you say that. It's called The Invisible Gorilla.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's right behind you, actually. I can't get it because we have a kitten, and we're going to disrupt the balance if I get up. But the author, I can't think of the author's names, but it's maybe we'll put that in the show notes too, actually.
Sure.
It's a great book.
The best magicians are not the ones who are most adept at sleight of hand. They are the ones who can control where you are looking at all times. This is the true secret of all magic tricks. You're looking in the wrong place when the dirty work happens, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Now, Davy's seances, sham seances, right? And he knew it. He was like, oh, this is all fake, right? He even projected them as fake, right? But they caught the attention for the Society of Psychical Research and Richard Hodgson. We talked about them on our last happy hour. Hodgson published a paper titled The Possibilities of Malobservation and the Lapse of Memory from a Practical Point of View, based on Davies' shows. And that was one of the most important papers on cognitive research at the time. And just to give you insight into how entrenched the spiritualism belief was at this time, one of the audience members of Davies' seance was so convinced that Davy had real, legitimate supernatural powers that even after they showed him the mechanics of the effects, he wrote an angry letter to the Society for Psychical Research and accused them of covering up Davy's genuine spiritual powers.
God, that has echoes of what's happening today hard.
It does, doesn't it?
Oh my God.
This magician was so fucking good at what he did that he fooled people to the point where he was like, no, it's just an illusion. They were like, no, it's not. You're real. Why are you lying to me about it?
Oh my God.
He's that good.
Or people are just that hoodwinked.
Well, yeah, that too. Education's a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Critical thinking is so vitally important when it comes to these sorts of things. Yeah. And so all that is to say that even though Kate Fox wasn't a deeply connected liaison to the spiritual world, she was actually probably the most famous female magician of the 19th century. She just didn't bill herself that way.
Wow, yeah, what an interesting way of putting it.
Yeah. For her part, Kate continued to build her career as a medium, traveling to England and performing overseas. While there, she met Henry Dietrich Jenkinson, a British barrister. 3 months later, he proposed, and they were married in December of 1872. The ceremony was small and curiously absent of Maggie and Leah. Now, Maggie's alcoholism had gotten particularly bad at this point, and Kate likely didn't want her to make the arduous journey by boat across the Atlantic to get there. Leah was another matter. Kate and Leah's fallout occurred over the span of a decade and coincided with Leah's retirement from spiritualism. While they still talked and visited, Kate seemed to keep an arm's length from her older sister, as if she'd come to realize something about Leah. But we'll touch on that in just a moment. Now, Kate and Henry had 2 boys, Ferdinand, or Ferdy, and Henry Jr. The 3 of them visited their family back in New York when they could, with Henry Sr. often too preoccupied with work to join them in the States. Their marriage was very happy, and Henry enjoyed Kate's seances, so she kept doing them.
Oh, he sounds like a cool guy.
Yeah, he totally supported her. He was great.
Good dude. All right.
The British papers started to speculate over the mediumistic powers of Ferdy and Henry Jr., and who would take up the family business after the end.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's so
yeah,
cute.
So they were like, "Oh, which one's gonna be blessed with their mother's talent?" Right?
Oh man, that's cool. That's very very typical British, I feel like. They're very into the dynastic
Yeah, it's very dynastic.
aspect
Right?
of families and
Yeah.
businesses. Yep.
For what it's worth, I don't think Kate saw it that way. I don't think Kate saw it as cute, and we'll talk about that in a second
okay.
as well. In 1881, after 10 years of their marriage, Henry Sr. suffered a massive stroke and died.
Oh.
Yeah. Kate was far from her family, her sisters, and she began drinking in earnest, following in Maggie's footsteps. She took her boys and moved back to New York in 1885, and she lived with Leah and Daniel Underhill in their house in New York City. Leah at the time was working on her book, The Missing Link in Modern Spiritualism, which detailed her exploits with her spiritualist sisters. Now, the missing link in modern spiritualism is, I've used it for reference for this series, but it is at best a historical fiction account of the Fox sisters.
Oh. Okay.
Dates, travels, all very well documented. But Leah makes wildly inaccurate claims of all sorts, from like levitating objects to daily communication with spirits without seances, and the whole family's history with the supernatural. She talks about how like their mother had this gift and their grandmother and blah, 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 and all of this stuff, right?
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she tries to make it into this like family legacy thing, right? Which is actually important. Like she's like, oh, it's an inherited trait. Her depiction of herself in particular is egotistical and grandiose. And she depicts herself as like this woman she's just trying so hard to help the spirits pass their message along, while all the while protecting her sisters from the malicious doubters who are always accosting them. Oh no, that sort of thing, right? This is who she is in her book.
Okay.
Now, I think it's likely that this all frustrated Kate, who was already struggling to keep her children out of the press's eye. So she moves into New York, stays with Leah while Leah's working on this book. They have a couple arguments over it. We don't really know what that thing was that they were arguing about. Might have been the way everything is represented. Mm-hmm. All that we know is that within a few weeks, Kate and the boys move out of that place and move in with their brother, David, on his farm outside of Rochester until Kate can get on her feet enough and she rents a place in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were only like touched Leah's place before getting the heck out of there.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That sounds very toxic.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot they had a brother.
Oh, yeah. He's just farming.
Cool.
He's good.
He's living his
good.
best life. He's got the hay bales and the sheep.
Yep.
I think he's got the best life of everybody.
He probably did. He was just watching all this from afar.
Yeah. He's like, nope.
Now, all the while, Kate's still drinking heavily, and her downward spiral continues. In 1888, she was arrested in Harlem and charged with neglecting her children.
Oh.
Ferdy and Henry Jr. were sent to a juvenile asylum. And Kate gave a tearful interview in the newspaper World describing how she and Maggie had developed drinking during their tour as mediums.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so her children have been taken away from her.
That is such shit.
Yeah.
She probably didn't even do anything that bad.
Well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk about what really happened here in a second.
Okay.
But she is left to plead, hey, can I have my children back? This is something that I came to because of the life that was thrust upon me. We were expected to entertain socialites at a young age, and we've been using alcohol to cope since our childhood, right? So the spiritualist community, which Kate Fox has actually helped build over the last 30 years, lashes back against her. They attacked Kate's character and credibility. They called her a fraud and said she was only in it for the fame. Now Kate strikes back against them and calls them fanatics who hire halls and preach universal belief in everything.
Ooh.
Maggie, ever the protector, came to her sister's aid, and she published an article in the New York Herald titled "The Curse of Spiritualism," and attacked the rise of what she called fanatics and humbug artists.
Ooh.
Yeah. So all this while Kate is trying to get custody of her boys back. Eventually, she's able to do so only through impersonating her brother-in-law.
What?
Yeah. Because you needed a man to do it. You couldn't do it as a woman, especially as a woman who had been the one that they had persecuted.
Of course.
Prosecuted.
Yes, of course. So does she dress up in she put on a mustache?
Oh, a little mustache. She's like, excuse me, sir.
Excuse me, good sir.
My name is Kate. No, Tate. Tate Fox.
Yes.
No. She wrote letters
Okay.
as her brother-in-law, and she was able to get her boys back that way.
Good.
Yes. So she and Maggie, after all this dies down, they talk and are convinced that Leah was behind this seizure.
What?
Yeah. So they believe that Leah wanted to get custody of the boys for herself, for Leah.
Holy crap.
Now, why do you think that would be? Why would Leah want custody?
Because everybody in England was already talking about how they would be the next spiritualists.
Oh, yeah.
That is so shitty.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is not. I just want to be completely clear. This is not addressed anywhere. This is all speculation. This is my speculation.
This is your speculation.
This is my speculation.
Okay.
I suspect Leah's motives were twofold in this. One, she wanted to attack Kate for renouncing her book, and that was probably part of the fight that they had that caused Kate to leave.
Yeah.
But also, Leah has an interest in keeping the family spiritualism business going. In her waning years, as always, as we've always talked about, Leah is looking to the future. I think she saw dollar signs in Ferdy and Henry Jr. and was eager to get custody of them and use them the same way she'd used her younger sisters, as money-making machines.
Oh my God.
Yep. And the only way she could do that was to get Kate out of the picture.
Oh my God. If that's true, that's really bad.
Yeah. Now, Maggie has seen firsthand the depressing results that a lifetime of spiritualism brought, and she vowed to keep her sister and nephews safe at all cost. Always the protector, right? Mm-hmm. In September of 1888, Maggie took an interview with the New York Herald at her apartment in New York City, and she let it all fucking out. Okay, this is a quote. "When spiritualism first began, Kate and I were little children, and this old woman, my other sister, made us her tools. Mother was a silly woman. She was a fanatic. I call her that because she was honest. She believed in these things. But we were but innocent little children. What did we know? We grew to know too much. Our sister used us in her exhibitions, and we made money for her. Now she turns upon us because she's the wife of a rich man, and she opposes us both wherever she can. Oh, I am after her. You can kill sometimes without using weapons, you know." Oh. Snap.
That is amazing. You can kill without using weapons.
You can kill without using weapons.
I like that. I like that quote. Man.
Yeah.
Package that. Put that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah, on a t-shirt.
On a t-shirt.
We need Slaying Monsters t-shirts. You can kill without using weapons. That's actually pretty damn cool.
You can kill without using weapons, you know.
Maggie. Yeah, you know. It's the you know,
I like
right?
It. Yeah.
You can just see her giving the little side eye, like, you know.
Yeah. Oh, man, that'd be great. Yeah.
And with that article released in the Herald, Maggie booked her final performance as a medium at the Academy of Music in New York City. This performance, the world will call the death blow to spiritualism.
What?
Yes. On October 1888, Maggie Fox took the stage at the Academy of Music. Kate sat in the audience, silent supporter of her sister's campaign. Maggie, dressed all in black as she has ever since Cain died, she steps up to the podium and she reads a prepared statement before a rowdy crowd of believers and skeptics. Unfortunately, we don't have the text of Maggie's speech, but what we do have is the follow-up pamphlet, The Death Blow to Spiritualism, by Reuben Briggs Davenport, which was written under the authority of Kate and Maggie. In it, Maggie says this: "Yes, I am going to expose spiritualism from its very foundation. I have had the idea in my head for many a year, but I have never come to a determination before. I've thought of it day and night. I loathe the thing I have been. As I used to say to those who wanted me to give a seance, you are driving me to hell. Then, the next day I would drown my remorse in wine. I was too honest to remain a medium. That's why I gave up my exhibitions. I knew, of course, then, that every effect produced by us was absolute fraud. Why, I have explored the unknown as far as the human will can. I have gone to the dead so that I might get from them some little token. Nothing ever came of it. Nothing. And this, her statement here, tells us how distraught she has been over Cain. When she says, I have gone to the dead, she tried so hard to reach this man that she loved, and she couldn't do it.
Of course, if anybody would.
Right.
If anybody could hear from anybody, it would
Right.
be Maggie.
So think about this. For years, she's been locked away. She has this shrine in her apartment, and that's what she's been doing. And she's realized if she ever believed that she had any gifts, which she kind of says here that she knew better, but she made it her life's work to try to contact her husband, and she couldn't fucking do it.
Right.
So
Oh my God.
Maggie went on to explain that her elder sister, Leah, had intended to start an entire religion, as she had likely seen from the rising Protestantism in the burned-over district. Leah, she set up a system for communicating with her younger sisters during seances, so she would prompt them when to make the raps. Leah was honing their cold reading skills, and she was cueing the sisters, so they had adult knowledge and understanding that was impossible for girls at their age. Right? 'Cause
Yes.
she was just saying like, oh, do it now. Go ahead, rap now, whatever, right? Together, the three of them created this metaphysical world populated by spirits of the dead. They created this, dude. So after the scathing denunciation, Maggie, on stage, right, removes her shoe, puts her right foot on a pine table, and she makes the raps. Sound echoes through the entire hall.
Oh my God.
She then allows herself to be examined by physicians who quickly confirmed that the sounds were coming from the bones in her toes.
Holy crap. Oh my God. And I'm going to make a prediction.
Yes.
The believers still believe.
Oh, yeah. So before we leave this theme,
God.
Davenport writes, the demonstration was perfect and complete, and if spirit rappings find any credence in this community hereafter, it would seem a wise precaution on the part of authorities to begin the enlargement of the state's insane asylums without any delay.
Oh my God.
Basically, if you still believe in it, you're going to the nut house, right?
Yeah. This is where your door is.
Exactly.
Exit this way and
Yeah.
Oh man.
In the aftermath of all of this shit, spiritualist community splinters. Some called Maggie bitter because the spirits had stopped talking to her. I know. But that was what they said. They're like, you're just mad because they're not talking to you anymore.
She's like, I cracked my fucking knuckle on the pine board. What do you want?
Some pointed to the $1,500 she made giving the lecture and said she had done it only for the money. And honestly, Maggie wasn't doing that well financially, so that might have some merit. But she still showed them how she did it.
I mean, money is money. You got it. You need it.
Right. You
Can't judge her for that.
Worst of all, I think, some spiritualists tried to downplay the Fox sisters' place in the history of the movement. They pointed to Andrew Jackson Davies, a prominent medium of the time, and declared him the true founder and visionary. And the sisters, they said, they're just sideline players.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very convenient.
Trying to be like, no, it was the man. It was the man. Don't listen to these women. Leah died in 1890 from carditis, an inflammation of the heart. She went to her grave still swearing that the spiritual world was real and that her sister's powers were genuine. She was 77. Kate continued to provide occasional seances, although it seems like she was performing in a more tongue-in-cheek way. Mm-hmm. She died of kidney disease in 1892 at the age of 55. Her death certificate read simply, housewife.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with housewives?
No.
Nothing wrong?
But for all of her impact.
Everything else that she did? Wow.
She was a housewife.
Wow.
Yeah. Her body was placed in a receiving vault, which is like a temporary holding place. Maggie, broken alone in New York City, was devastated by her little sister's passing. Surrounded by loss, she disappeared from the public eye and died 8 months later of heart failure on October 7th, 1893. Kate's body was disinterred from the receiving vault, and the sisters were buried together at the Cypress Hill Cemetery, now a part of the spirit world they had so frequently called upon. Despite Maggie's best efforts, the spiritualist movement surged ahead. The Hydesville house that they had grown up in was preserved and moved to Lilydale, a New York hamlet, and the headquarters of the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. Unfortunately, the house was destroyed in a fire in 1955. Oh. The movement the Fox sisters set in motion charged forward, now this unstoppable idea. The notion that this life isn't the end, that we have a chance to continue to right the wrongs of our past and live on, that our story doesn't have to end when we die, that we may be laid to rest, but we don't have to disappear. And I think that's the triumph of the Fox sisters. Say what you want about the flawed ideas of ghost investigation and psychic mediumship and all of that in today's society. But Maggie and Kate, under the direction of Leah, accomplished something only dreamed about at that time. They grew up poor. They lived hand to mouth. Well, men, of course, right? Men are grabbing these proverbial brass rings and they're building their own success like men do, right? Mm-hmm. Seeing the changing world around them, the Fox sisters changed with it and built not only their own empire, but an entire philosophy, religion, and career. These sisters, they redefined it, right?
Yes.
Barbara Weisberg, their biographer, plays coy with the story. Mm-hmm. She prefers to let the reader decide. Maybe this is real. Okay. Which is... It drives me nuts because it's like the oldest strategy in paranormal reporting, right? It's at the very end, you're like, but maybe Kate actually did talk to them, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You know, maybe it was real. You never know. And the thing is, I think it does a particular injustice to the Fox sisters. Because if we look at them just as conduits to the spiritual world, we miss the greater accomplishment of who they were and what vision they had. The Fox sisters performed during a time when women were struggling to break free from the shackles of a male-dominated society. They almost single-handedly created not only Leah's proposed new religious movement, but an entirely new occupation, one which wasn't confined to the bounds of gender or societal norms. The spiritual medium was the essence of a changing America, one where you had control over your own destiny. The Fox sisters are one of the greatest American success stories of all time. 3 sisters, born into poverty and driven by their desires for a better life, together redefined who they were and what all women were capable of. They rose to the height of success and proved that although there may not be life after death, there certainly is legacy after it. And they did it all through the bones of their toes.
Nice. Oh, very good. Oh, man.
There you go.
And that's the end of the Fox sisters.
That's the story of the Fox sisters.
Yeah, that's really sad, though.
It is. It's a tragedy in the end, unfortunately.
It really is.
Yeah.
They didn't have any support structure.
They didn't. No. And they didn't know what to do with their success. Mm-mm. And when you really look back and you reflect on it, so much of that machine was run by Leah that I don't know how much money actually filtered to Kate and Maggie that wasn't allowance from her. Now, eventually Kate went off and she started doing it on her own and she was making her own money. But absolutely, as soon as Maggie left, she was cut off. Yeah,
it seems like they didn't see a whole lot unless Leah allowed it.
Yeah. Yes, it's very much the story of Leah Fox's success.
Yeah.
And also just the rise of like what they created, dude. Maggie starts this whole magic thing, right? Yeah. And she's doing parlor magic, and then this spirals off into some of these later magicians who I mentioned, like Blackstone and these types of people who continue doing parlor magic like this.
Yeah. I mean,
they created it all.
Yeah, what they did is just incredible, and I know I really think that Maggie is such a brave person to stand up to her sister, to stand up in front of all those people, the riffraff who, definitely she knew they were gonna give her a hard time.
Well, she had done it for years. You know?
But then she just goes and she says none of this is real. I mean, she knew it was gonna be rough.
Yeah.
And she did it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's just how pissed she was at her sister.
Well, she saw that they were coming for Kate's kids.
Yeah. And she needed to protect.
She had to defend her sister and her nephews because she knew that they were going to go right down the same path that the two of them did.
Yeah.
And it had ruined Maggie's life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're right, it does take away the magic of how amazing these women are when you say, oh, they were just conduits to the spirit world.
Yeah, it's very frustrating for me. You see that in a lot of the reporting about this. Mm-hmm. And I always just kind of want to be like, no, they were these amazing magicians.
Yeah.
They were these phenomenal magicians. They knew how to talk to people. They knew how to do all of this shit and control people, control the room, all of that shit. And they created a legacy. And you're gonna be like, oh, well, maybe the spirits did want them to do it. Like, maybe the spirits did want them to go on tour. No, they fucking wanted to go on tour. They fucking wanted to get rich, dude.
Yes, it was
and they
them.
did. And they did.
Yeah, I know. It takes away the... we really underestimate ourselves as human beings. We really... Like, when we give up, our power to some other spiritual thing that doesn't exist, it's like... You're the freaking one that did the surgery that saved that person's life. You're the one that scored the touchdown. You're the one that
right.
Held an entire audience wrapped, with your magical skills, with your legerdemain. It's like, no, like take credit for your talents.
You should. And I understand humility.
Sure.
I understand
Don't
humility.
be a dick. I mean, come on.
But when someone else is the person who's like, wow, look at how that spirit worked through you, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no, dude, that was me though.
Yes.
That was Maggie. That was Kate.
Yeah.
They were the ones that were doing this shit.
Mm-hmm. That was Leah playing that game and figuring out how to get all those people to open up their pocketbooks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Leah's just fantastic understanding of the world around her, to see like Protestantism on the rise in, the burned over district that she was living in, and be like, yo, things are changing. We can be on this wave. We can do this. Mm-hmm. We can be a part of this, and we can get ahead of it. And it's gonna pay. It's going to make us famous.
Very smart women, all of them.
Super cool, right?
Super cool.
All right.
Super sad, but super cool.
Super sad, but super cool. Well, yeah, thanks for coming along on our journey with the Fox sisters.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah. Where are we going next?
Let's see. I don't want to give too much away. Somewhere, we're not going to be in America. Mm-hmm. And it's going to get a little bloody. Ooh. I'll tell you that. We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to talk cryptids. Mm-hmm. And it's going to get bloody.
Okay.
So.
Sounds exciting.
Yes.
I think I'll be there for it.
Oh, I certainly hope so. I might be there. We'll see.
I hope so.
Awesome.
Bye.
See y'all next time.
See ya. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Slaying Monsters. If you like the podcast and what we do, please share it with others or leave us a rating and review. For questions, suggestions, and other feedback, reach out to us, slayingmonsterspodcast@gmail.com, and stay up to date by following us on Instagram @slayingmonsterspodcast. Your support helps us grow, and we are truly grateful to have our listeners and community.